In the next 15 minutes or so, you're going to find out why you ought to pre-order our upcoming book, 40 Hadith on Masculinity. My name is Nabil on behalf of MuslimMan.com, and I'm here with Dr. Salah Sharif, who's helping us curate and produce this book. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Salah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm going to tell a little story about how we met. You actually reached out to me first for another project because you are working on, I believe it's a Quran app. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an Islamic audio app. So Quran, podcasts, audiobooks.
So you reached out to me to ask if I could help you with the email marketing on that. And I basically just gave you some advice and sent you on your way because at that time it wasn't a good fit. And then I heard Mustafa Al-Qabbani on the Mad Mamluks podcast, and he's a translator, and I had this idea for translating a book on intimacy between husbands and wives. And I asked him, hey, would you be able to translate this book? And his response was, man, I'm too busy, I'm behind on my work, but you could talk to Dr. Salah Sharif and he might be able to help you. So that was when I reached out to you first for a translation project. And then we found out after you looked into it, so the book was allegedly by Al-Imam As-Suyuti. The book is called Al-Wisha, or no, that's not the one. Nawadir al-Aik, okay? And then you looked into it and you found out that this book might not have actually been written by Imam As-Suyuti. So then the project was basically dead in the water because it's pointless, like writing a fake book attributed to him. And then I decided, okay, maybe obviously I wanted to work with you because you're a reputable team. And I decided, okay, so what's another project that we could probably do together, something small that would still be beneficial. So I thought, why not do something like a 40 Hadith compilation, and we'll get into why that is in a minute. And that's when we started working with you. And then you reached out to me recently and you said, hey man, we really like this idea, so we just started working on it anyway. Because I said, like, okay, give me some time to get everything set up so that we can get ready to pre-launch and things like that. And then I found out you're already starting working on the book.
Well, so firstly, I think we're all very lucky that I'm more welcoming than you. So I didn't set you up on your way like you set me up on my way, right? So I welcomed you with open arms. I did the very chivalrous thing to do, right? And the other funny thing that you actually don't know yet is Mustafa Al-Qabbani, of course, as you know, is one of the world's best and most talented translators in the world, and I'll say that with full confidence. And he's like our pretty much head of translation, my top translator. And when you came to me, I didn't know that Mustafa sent you. And when you told me about this book, so you said we need the expert translation, and it's about intimacy. And I thought, sex and Islam. I thought Mustafa's the guy to go to. So I messaged Mustafa the same day. And I said, Mustafa, I've got the perfect book for you. Drop what you're doing. This is what we're going to do. Then he revealed, and he said, well, actually, Nabil came to me and I sent him to you. So I said, fair enough. And then, when I spoke to the team, we found out it was misattributed, and the rest is history.
Is there still value in translating it? Because in my mind, if it's not written by Imam As-Suyuti, like, it doesn't really matter because, like, man, I can read the Kama Sutra if I wanted to. You know what I mean?
The issue is we don't know if he didn't write it or if he wrote it and then washed his hands from it. So basically, he wrote a text at the end of his life and said, these are all the texts that I wrote and that I stand by. And there's a list of 300 of them. And this wasn't included. So if he wrote it and then washed his hands off it, we have a problem here. Because imagine you grow as a person, you deliver a course, say, let's use your context, you're going to deliver a course. Then you delete the course 5 years later because you've grown and you realize this wasn't the best way. Someone recorded the course and then put it back up on YouTube, you're going to be upset. So that's where the dilemma comes in, where we don't know exactly what the story is. So if it was just a matter of someone who anonymously wrote it, then yeah, fair enough. If you want to translate it, we can do so. It's just maybe there's a clear answer out there, but it's not clear to us right now.
Yeah, the main reason why I wanted to translate is because of the brand that Imam Suyuti has. Like, okay, we're both marketers, so you kind of understand where I'm coming from there. So in my
Yeah.
perspective, if it's not legit Imam Suyuti, then really there's no point, because there's more modern contemporary material. Obviously, it's more like the contemporary modern material. If it's not from a Muslim source, it's going to be more degenerate in general. But in my mind, if the brand is not there, then really there's no point in translating medieval text.
Also, I think it was a big blessing in disguise. Like Asa and takrahu shay'an wa khayrun lakum. You might dislike something that's better for you. We were disappointed. But what the idea we have now, to be honest, we'll go into it. But this is a fantastic idea, a very noble idea. So I think this is a big blessing in disguise.
So you and your team have a good reputation. I'm sure you have a lot of work that you could do, a lot of projects you could be spending on time on. What motivated you to decide to work on this project? Because a few days ago, you told me you've already started translating and all that. So now I'm rushing to get it out so I can actually make
that
sure
was my very subtle,
yeah,
my very subtle push. Well, this is a very unique project, actually. I think in the 9 years that we've been doing this, this is one of the most unique projects, because usually you'll either write a book or we'll translate a book. In our field, we mainly translate and we edit books. This has three components here. We've got research, we've got translation, and we've got commentary. So first, we are sifting through all the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as many as we can, and we're searching for a hadith on masculinity, on chivalry, on leadership, on manliness, and we're compiling them. And then we're going to try and order them in terms of authenticity, and we'll pick the 40 most authentic ones, and any additional ones that are still passable, we'll use them for our explanation. Then we have to translate. And then, of course, that's a whole different skill set, an entirely different skill set, actually. And then we're not stopping there. If we stop there, it would be highly beneficial, even if we stop there. But we're going to go one step further and write a commentary and actually extract some of these benefits and lay them out for a layman. So this is a very unique project, to be honest. I don't like to make the claim too often, but I don't think this has been done before, to be honest, in this particular way.
And in your studies or your team's research, how much work has there been done in our tradition on the subject of masculinity?
So firstly, it depends how philosophical we want to get, because not to sound too cliche, but genuinely the seerah itself, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, is really all you need. If you wanted to make a deep dive into the seerah, you're going to learn how to be a man. And the lives of the Sahaba themselves. I mean, that's really the best source you can utilize. But if we're talking specific books on these topics, there are some texts, but to be honest, perhaps not as many as we might think. And that might be for a number of reasons. Islamic history has been 1400 years, but there's been peaks and troughs of the age of enlightenment, but then we have the age of darkness. We've lost thousands of books and texts before the printing press, so before they were managed to be mass produced. So there are Ibn Marzuban, he wrote a book called Kitab al-Muru'a, which is a book about ethics and honor. These were some of the statements of the companions and the Tabi'een, so that's quite an authority. But beyond that, there are a few texts on physical fitness. Even Imam Suyuti wrote a book about grappling and the sunnah of grappling. So there are some texts here loosely related, but you're not going to find a massive list of books specifically on these topics in the way that we're trying to describe.
Maybe the book on grappling can be our next project.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually.
Because the MMA is quite popular now with the
yeah, exactly. It depends how clickbait you want to be. You want to be like,
how to smash.
Actually, that could be a different book, to be fair.
So why 40 hadith? Where does this tradition come from?
So people may or may not have heard of the 40 hadith phenomenon. I think the most famous 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi, that's probably the most famous, definitely the most famous hadith, 40 hadith compilation in Islamic history. But actually, there are thousands of different 40 hadith compilations. So 40 hadith isn't just Imam al-Nawawi's thing. there are thousands of different compilations on a variety of topics. Basically, there's a hadith, there's a narration that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever in my ummah memorizes 40 hadiths from which the ummah draws benefit, Allah will raise him on the day of judgment as a scholar. This is the hadith. Now, the thing is, to be completely transparent, as far as I understand, the hadith is not that authentic. So we can't confidently attribute it to the Prophet ﷺ. Nevertheless, the scholars didn't find any harm in acting it out anyway. There is no bid'ah, there's no issue with collating 40 hadith and writing into a book. So the scholars throughout history, from the Sahaba till now, have had a habit of doing that. So yeah, there's no harm to continue to write, and there are many benefits from that. It's a very suitable size. It's very digestible for the laity. So there's a lot of success in this kind of tradition.
And you mentioned that the hadith that you narrated is not that authentic. What is the principle with regards to acting on weak hadith?
Well, this is a very detailed discussion, to be honest with you. So it would have to be a very summarized answer, which is, generally speaking, the scholars say if it's related to laws, if you're going to make a ruling upon this, if you're going to say something definitive, then you'll stay away from those weaker hadiths. If it's something to do with virtues, if it's just something to do with blessing, then you'll be more lenient with it. That is quite a summary though. So don't hold me to that, because there are levels of weakness. This is the thing. This is a misapplied principle, because there's a difference between some weakness in a strong hadith and a fabricated hadith. And then there's a habit of using fabricated hadith and saying, look, it's not about ruling, so it's okay. But no, the level of weakness that you've applied to this hadith, you can't touch it in any way. So basically, there's like a ratio here. How weak is it, and what topic is it about? So it's a very complicated topic to be honest.
And then the reason why I asked that question is, if you came up in your religion, or you became practicing after like the online kind of dawah started spreading, it's just the general sort of view among the Muslims that as soon as the hadith is even a little bit weak, like you can't like even read it. It's basically almost like kufr.
Yeah. Basically you ask yourself, what's the harm? Now, if you're saying this is halal and this is haram based on a weak hadith, then the harm is clear. You're literally jeopardizing the sanctity of the religion. But if you say making for a hadith compilation, well, what was the harm in you doing that? Even if there was no hadith about it, that's the point. Even if there was no hadith, you just wanted to bring 40 different hadith and make a book, what was the harm? There's no harm whatsoever, actually.
Now, whenever we're producing works like this, credentials are a big deal, and in this case, rightly so, because we're talking about the religion and we're narrating a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, what are your credentials and the credentials of those of your team?
Well, so we are primarily a translation company, and we specialize in Islamic literature. So this is our niche, where we have our initial expertise actually was in the English language and in academia, and we also have the specialism of Islamic studies, and this is the niche that we hold. Like I mentioned, this project is multifaceted. So we have translation, and then we have commentary, and we have research. Now, as for myself, my PhD is in law, in international law. I founded the company Wordsmiths, and through my research in academia and through Wordsmiths, my expertise became basically the English language and anything that pertains to that, through writing and through research and through editing. And the company started as an editing company before it became a translation company. So our roots are in proofreading and in editing and in the English language. However, for the past years, I've been studying Islamic studies. For the first 3 years part-time and now full-time. I'm based in Cairo. I was born and raised in England, so I studied with the scholars in England, primarily Sheikh Akram Nadwi, Hafidhullah Ta'ala. And in Egypt now, it's been 2 years full-time. I've continued to study. That being said, I own and manage the team. I own the company and I manage the team, but I'm not doing the translation itself. My translators, they have their own qualifications. And so I was reflecting on this topic because whenever we have a new position open, I'll get 100 applications, and I'll decide who's the best applicant. And what I realized was, organically, without actually consciously deciding this, all my translators, all 5 of them, they all follow the same pattern. They speak English as a first language, and they're raised in the West, and they have since studied Islamic studies and Arabic. Some of them have Arab lineage, in which case they already spoke Arabic, and then they study grammar and morphology and so on. And some of them, actually, one of my best translators is Scottish. He studied Arabic in Mauritania, and they learn Arabic. Now, the interesting thing is, if you have a translator that is strong in the target language, but is weak in the source language. So somebody, for example, in this case, who is very good at Arabic, but has English as a second language, you have an accurate translation that will read very badly. And I think most translations you probably come across fall under this category. It reads like a translation. You read the book and you think this has been translated, right? The fact that you thought that means something's gone wrong. It should read, it should flow, it should read so smoothly. You should ask yourself, for example, Imam Suyuti, when you translate his work, you need to ask yourself, if Imam Suyuti was a gentleman in the 21st century, born and raised in England, how would he have written this sentence? So you don't use English words with Arabic expressions. You use English words, in English expressions, right? So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is if you have a strong command over the target, over the source language, but you're weak in the target language. So you're good at English, but you're not so good at Arabic. You're going to write very well, but you're going to make mistakes in accuracy. So what we've tried to combine is mastering both. And the best way to do that through our decade of experience is having English as a first language, spending 10 plus years studying Arabic and Islamic sciences. And then now you have basically what you're writing is idiomatic. You're writing in idiomatic language in English. However, you have a strong enough understanding of Arabic. So our translators, just to have, most of them are scholars. Some of them are students of knowledge. They've spent the last 10 years studying Islamic sciences, but they were born and raised with the English language. And we found this to be the best formula.
I had this issue as well because a few years ago, actually several years ago, I worked on the translation. Well, I didn't actually translate it. I was trying to summarize the translation of Hilyat Talib al-Ilm. And the translation is very, very difficult to read. It was written in the I don't know if you're familiar with this style of English. It's like the on the manhaj type of English, like where they write like
Don't tell me you put double vowelization. Don't tell me that. I'm gonna end the call.
So I had to basically rewrite huge sections of the translation and basically make it a more idiomatic English, so it's actually something that would be interesting and readable. So that is definitely a problem with the vast majority of translations that I see.
To be honest, it is the vast majority. Unfortunately, and I don't like saying that, it is literally the vast. Even till now, people use English. Basically, they're writing Arabic in English words. That's what they're doing. The expressions are Arabic expressions. I can empathize because you are being loyal to the text, but you're not being loyal to the author. You're being loyal to the text, but not the author. So you don't want to diverge too much from what he's saying, and really you're jeopardizing the essence of the text. So of course there's a balance here. You can't just turn it into your own interpretation, but you really have to constantly ask yourself, what would the author write if it was written in English, and extend that throughout the whole. Basically, they're zoomed in. They're zoomed in too much. So you have to zoom out, translate paragraph at a time. Don't translate sentence at a time. Don't translate words. You have to zoom out and translate the whole paragraph.
And for those of you watching, if you pre-order your copy of 40 Hadith on Masculinity, you'll also be getting a copy of this work, this revised or summarized translation of Hilyat Talib al-Ilm as a bonus. And it's called The Seeker's Regalia. So I had to translate the title as well, because they called it The Adornment of the Seeker of Knowledge, which is very clunky as a title. That's where sort of like you need to be good in your English as well. But that's a bonus when you pre-order the book. as you're compiling this, what are the topics or subject areas that will be covered in the book?
So one important thing to bear in mind is that, and I recently just yesterday I wrote a post about this actually, which is a coincidence. But when you approach Islam with a blank slate, with the paradigm of Islam, not with an external framework, you really want to see what is the Prophet ﷺ teaching, right? Now, when you enter with the baggage of an external framework, you're entering with your own notion. So sometimes certain words will get tainted. So the lens here is through what was the Prophet ﷺ teaching. We're coming here through virtue. So this is the caveat to when we use certain words. We're not using them from a 21st century liberal versus conservative, male versus female, gender war paradigm or anything like that. We are coming from what is the message of Islam trying to teach. So it's going to mention things like rajula, manliness, qawama, leadership, muru'a, honor, virtue ethics, things like this. So it's actually quite refreshing because you start to question yourself and you start to question, even while researching, I was discussing with the translator and he was saying, well, I'm questioning myself now. Like, I thought I was very manly. I'm reading this. This is what it means to be a man. Through the definition of hadith, not through the definition of whatever the last 50 years politics and ideology wars. So yeah, we'll see. Whoever signs up, we'll see.
How much work does it take to put a book like this together? I know you working on it, you have a team working on it. Can you describe the process for us and how long it takes approximately to put something like this together?
Well, like I mentioned, we've got like different components there. So this is like, we're treating this like 3 different projects, to be honest. So the first project is the compilation itself. I would say it takes, because it's like saying, how long does it take to teach, let's say, if I say, how long does it take to teach this book? Well, you can teach this in a weekend and you can teach it in a year. How much time do you want to spend on it? How much detail do you want to go into it? We really want to do it justice. So we spent more than 4 hours per hadith just in searching for the hadith itself. So 4 hours per hadith of the 40 hadith. So four times 4 is 160 hours just in choosing that hadith. We've not even translated them, we've never written about them. Then translation itself takes around 4 hours per, say, 1,000 words, just to translate. That's what the first translator will do. Then what happens after that is that translator will go to the editing department. Remember, we specialize in editing before we even start translating. So now we're editing it. Then it comes to me. Now I'm looking at the veracity of the translation, looking at the quality, the idiomatic language. I'm reviewing it. And the commentary hasn't even started. So then the commentary is going to be written on it. So, hundreds of hours is at the bare minimum.
Since we're talking about recording and narrating hadith, do you guys have any isnad in any of these hadith that you could like include in the book, where it's like there's a proper chain of narration, or is that like not like a thing?
When you approach hadith, it's like you write different books depending on the goal of the book, or even when you go to a hadith class. So there are certain hadith classes you'll go to, musalsalat bil awwaliya or musalsal al-rahma. Basically, you're going not to study the hadith, you're going to read the hadith because your teacher read it from his teacher, read it from his teacher, all the way to the Prophet ﷺ, and you're going just to get that, that link to the Prophet ﷺ. But you're not seeking much knowledge here. This is more tabarruk. You're getting barakah, blessings. Or you'll go to a hadith class and you'll analyze ilm al-rijal, the sanad, the chain of narration itself, the authenticity of the hadith. So this is a very academic pursuit. Where we are, trying to get the most authentic hadith. We're trying to speak about them and extract the benefits from them, and we want to focus on that primary benefit. Extracting those hadith on this topic, basically just teaching what the Prophet, packaging what the Prophet ﷺ not only taught but embodied on this particular topic.
Beautiful. And I guess if you are somebody who cares about getting the chain of narration, probably the best way to do it is go seek out the scholar and read it to them in person.
Well, of course, because you can't get that through reading a book anyway. The whole point of Islamic scholarship is through that chain. And that's why they say whoever takes books as their teacher will end up misguided, because there are certain books that you can write for the laity, which is what we're trying to do here. But if you want to become more academic now, then you need to study with the scholars. So if you want to have a change to the Prophet ﷺ, then it's an oral tradition.
Beautiful. All right, Dr. Salah, I want to thank you for your time. This has been very, very enlightening, and also thank you for agreeing to take on this project.
Maybe you can learn a thing or two. Yeah, you can learn a thing or two on. You know what? It's because we embodied the Rajula and the Qawama and the Murwa. Okay, so you should be the first person to read this book. Okay.
What I was trying to do is I was trying to not waste your time, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm just pulling it in.
Barakallahu feek. So, 40 Hadith on masculinity, how to be a good man, available for pre-order. And when you do pre-order, you're going to get a bonus. The bonus is the Seeker's Regalia, which is a summarized, abridged translation of Hilyatul Talib al-Ilm by Sheikh Bakr Abu Zaid. And that you can read in the meantime while Dr. Salah and his team finish producing the book and the book is released. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.